Welcome everybody out to the Takt Production System for Students, episode number 6, where we're going to talk about how to create a norm level or production level takt plan. I'm super excited to be with you, and I hope you've enjoyed the course up to this point, and you will be able to continue your example as we go throughout this and other videos in the future. I'm super excited to be with you, and I can't wait to get started. So let's go ahead and do this right now. So this first image here is of a macro level takt plan. So you're probably wondering like, hey J Money, what are you doing, home slice? I love you, but what are you doing here? Well, my point is this. Each of these phases in a macro level takt plan are the framework, or they become the framework for what you pull plan. And then once you pull plan these phases, that pull plan becomes your norm level production plan. So as we've been doing in this example throughout, I'm going to go ahead and use the interiors as an example, but I want to make a point that as we're moving forward into the norm, we have to use, or we get to use, the macro as the base. Meaning, and actually, oh my gosh, I just thought of something here really cool. Let me go ahead and talk about this. If this is your interiors, remember, we wanted to pull plan it 3 months ahead before the phase starts. We want to prepare trade partners in the pre-con or preparatory meeting 3 weeks ahead, and we need to make sure that the supply chain activities are queued up ahead of time. So the phase becomes the framework for your overall strategic plan. So I'm really excited about that. So when you start your norm level journey, you will have created your macro already, and just like the image in front of you, reviewed it and torn it apart to where you have a solid macro level takt plan, which becomes your base strategy. Now, I hope you're all sitting down because I want to show you this. As we zoom in to the interiors here, I want to show you some objects, and this is pretty exciting to me. Actually, let me just go ahead and repeat what I said before. 3 months before this phase starts, you want to do your pull plan. 3 weeks before your first wagon, you want to start your first pre-construction meeting. And remember, everything needs to have a supply chain, so your supply chain will lead up to it. At that 3-month mark before you start, you are going to pull plan this first sequence. And my point here is, and you're going to learn about this as we go, once you do a pull plan, you'll also come up with the right number of zones, meaning you'll identify the right number of zones, which you'll see. I'm super excited to show you this, which means that your contractual promise date will be shortened to a production target through the pull plan and the zoning of the actual phase, and you will gain buffers. So a lot of times in the macro level takt plans, I like to actually show, hey, what is the path of critical flow for your slowest reasonable speed, or you can call it your contractual speed, and then how fast can we get going when we actually do a production target, which again does not shorten the trade's durations. And that's why I really like to see, hey, the macro is a 61 realized flow potential, 15 zones, duration of 145 days. Then when you zone it differently for the norm, you'll have a 67% realized flow potential, 30 zones, so that tells you your zone count, and you'll finish in 132 days. And that's what you're seeing over here. So really remarkable stuff. Let me go ahead and take you through how this is to be done. Okay, so you knew I was going to take you to the calculator. I love this calculator, and a huge shout out to Kevin Rice and the formula creators, Dr. Marco Vinegar and Dr. Jonas Louis, absolutely fantastic human beings. And on page 44, and remember, even though it might be a little annoying that I'm always on Miro showing these instead of like a curated PowerPoint or something like that, I do think it's beneficial because I'm leaving you the board and the page number for where it's found in the book. And what I do basically is show you the calculator, and I also show you step by step what every single thing means. But let me go ahead and show you right now where to find this calculator so that you're all happy with me. What you'll do, and I have this already open on my browser, but let me just go ahead and show you, leantakt.com, and you hit enter, and it will come to this page, and it will reroute because it's a part of the elevateconstructionist.com website. IST means Insights, Solutions, and Training, and that differentiates us from other people holding that name, but this is the LeanTakt page. And all you do is you scroll down. Oh my gosh, look at this beautiful website. So good. And you click on the Excel. And you'll see here we have the old template because some people really like the way that was organized. For this training, we've broken out the macro and the norm. Once you click on the norm, it will download and you can open it up. And what I want to do is show you what the calculator looks like. So this is different from the macro template that we've broken out for you, and it's all on the website, right? We have the start here, takt elements, work density, but we have the norm calculator, and it's all right here. I'm going to show you how to use this here in just a minute. But let me just start out by saying that there's a couple things that you have to do. From your macro, you have to type in this information accurately. And you're probably like, what is a standard space unit? Where there are spaces that cannot be divided any farther down, and that is your standard space unit. So like in a multifamily building, it's a room in a flat, or it's the flat, or it's the unit, right? You can type in this number and then know that whatever your zone strategy over here is, whether or not it is actually divides evenly into your standard space units, or if it leaves you like a space and a half. So don't worry about that just now. What I want you to do is make sure when you're using the calculator that you get it downloaded and that you have your macro level information in here. Now, this macro information is basically a holdover from the macro template, but I left it here in case somebody wanted to just have it all in one. You all are going to focus mainly in this window once you get to that part of the exercise. So where it says norm and general information, norm and general information. And if you do that, we're going to have a great time. So I'm just going to, this is a public service announcement. This is how you access the information, but I do want to take you back to the training. So on page 44, we talked to you about what each of the rows and columns mean. Huge shout out to Kevin again, and this is on page 44. Okay, so this is on page number 45, and what I want to show you here are a couple of things that tie into this example specifically that you're going to experience. And by the way, you do get to experiment with this on your own, but I'm going to just show you how the template team did it. So you'll see in the book on page 45, there's 15 wagons, 5 takt zones on a 5-day takt time. You should be current with us on that, meaning like know basically what those numbers mean from the last macro takt planning video. And what I want to point out is that if you remember when we originally started this, we thought the macro should be 3 zones, and that showed bad. Then we were like, nope, 5 is actually within the macro level range, and this team actually chose 11 for their Norm-Level Production Plan zoning strategy. And the point there is that you need to do that as well with your team. Okay, so I'm going to show you that in the actual calculator itself. And I'm going to show you how you and your team can go ahead and come through here and basically do what I call process of elimination for this and find out what your zoning should be. Then I'll zoom back out and show you what it looks like over here to the right. Right now, we just have a random item checked. I can move this over here to 5 so that my graphic looks correct. The first thing that I'm going to do is basically make sure that my information is typed in. So if I do remember correctly, takt wagons go from 25 to 15, from 3 to 5. We're still on a 5-day takt time. I counted there's about 90 standard space units, and the square foot will go from around 9,000 square feet to somewhere around 4,500, roughly. Now this, if it's not perfect, just understand this is just helping you to understand if one of your options is viable. Okay, so not a big deal. What I want to do here is say, all right, so our macro strategy is a 5 and 5, and I'm going to finish in 95 days. So what do I want to do for my norm level production plan? So this is actually a part of the assignment. And actually, let me go ahead and do this right now. In your board, you'll see a little arrow that comes down here, and it gives you an assignment that says identify your norm and your backup target. So open up your calculator, enter in your new macro zone and wagon strategy, have a discussion about your norm and backup by using the process of elimination, click the radio button to see what you came up with, and then be ready to report out to your team. Okay, so this is what we're doing right now. So let me go back to the calculator. Perfect. So we have the calculator open. We have the macro information ready. The next thing that we need to do is have a discussion with the team. So let me talk to you about what each column means. This one is how many wagons. Because we're adjusting to the norm, the wagon count will stay the same. Okay, so that will stay the same as this. And the wagon count did not stay the same with the macros. So don't get confused. In the norm, please, in the norm, your wagon count is going to stay the same. The adjusted tax zones, right? This right here will show what your zone count would be under different scenarios, right? And depending on how your calculator shows up, you can just go ahead and minimize the text. Most of the time it shows up properly, but if you don't see the full title, just adjust the font size. And then this one will say, okay, if you go to a different zoning strategy, your takt time will change. So that's your takt time. This is your takt level, like we talked about before, the duration, the standard space unit per zone. And again, if it's green, it means that what your zoning strategy showed is perfectly divisible by your standard space units. And if it's not, it just means that, hey, you might have to carve through a couple of different spaces and not have perfect outlines. So it's not a big deal, but it allows you to see what's happening. And then this is the trade time gained. How much more time do the trades get in that zone strategy, your area or zone, and then again, your realized flow potential. Okay, so this is some jamming stuff. So you can just go through these one by one and say, hey, what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? Now, depending on how you format this, you can take a snippet of this, a screenshot, or you can just do this right here in Excel. Either way, as long as you adjust the formatting when you're done, super fine. So let's look at this. Let's say that you're looking at these column by column, and we'll start with this one, okay? You're like, hey, we're not ready for a 2-day takt time, so we're going to go ahead and eliminate that from our options. So we're just going to consider anything 3, 4, 5-day takt time. Super good. Okay, let's come over here to the takt level. This shows whether or not we're good. Obviously, we're not going to select those two, but this is conditional formatting, so I can't format black over the top, but I will not do that option. Okay, the duration, this is just data, so we're super fine. Okay, over here, your standard space units per zone, this is just something for you to consider. When you come over here to the trade time gain, this gets a little bit more interesting. Maybe a trade partner is saying like, hey, anything over 10 days additional time, like I'm not really jamming with that. I don't really want to do that, right? Anything over 10, basically the argument that they give you is like, hey, that's going to increase our general conditions, our labor hours. We don't really like that. That's not a great solution. Okay, so that's great. All right, let's go over here to the area per zone. Let's say your trade partner's like, hey, I can do smaller zones, but I can't do anything less than 1,500 square feet, so I'm not going to do that. And obviously, we wouldn't want to do the 11,000 because it's above 10,000 square feet. So as you can see, I'm bolding these. I bolded. These are all being bolded. So I know what I don't want. So if you look at the process of elimination here, I can just go here to my top item. Anything inside this window is not an option. So anything 12 zones and more is not an option per my process of elimination. And then anything up here that's 3 to 2 zones is not within my options because of my process of elimination. And so really what I'm stuck with down here is, well, is stuck with the right, yeah, I'm going to say stuck with. What my viable options are, I can choose anything between 5 zones and 12 zones. And so really, when people look at this, they're like, hey, J Money, how do I decide? Well, you have a conversation at this point. And you're like, what matters the most to me, right? Like, let's say you're considering, hey, maybe I do, 11 zones versus 12, right? Okay, well, let's look at these two. So 11 versus 12. So 11, you have a little bit faster duration, so 75 days. But 12 gives you way too much trade time. So again, in the process of elimination, you wouldn't want to do that. Okay, let's say we're trying to choose between maybe 10 and 11. Okay, what's more important to you? Do you want more trade time gained? Do you want a faster duration? Do you want more square foot? Like, just start having a conversation as builders and figure out what you all want to do. They chose 15 wagons, 11 zones, 3-day takt time, finishing at 75 days versus 95. So you've gained, I don't math very well, but I think that's 20 days. You're going to have a little bit of carving up to do when you get to your standard space unit, but that's fine. Every trade gets an additional 8 days, and the square foot is pretty decent. It's 2,000. So we're jamming. We're looking really good. And then you would ask the question, well, okay, so that's what we're going to target. Now, what is my backup? This team actually chose a backup of 9 zones. And what that would mean is that they would finish in 69 days. And you might be saying, well, why wouldn't I go directly there? Well, hey, you can. But remember, on the 11 zone strategy, the trades get a little bit more time. They get used to it. You go to this other strategy, they have less additional trade time gained. So what the team here decided was their macro strategy is 5 zones. Their Norm-Level Production Plan strategy will be 11 zones, and their backup, if they ever get into trouble, will be 9 zones. So we're super good. Now, I do want to say one thing. I hope I'm not confusing. Obviously, I'm doing my best for you over here. You don't have to dark this out. You can just bold this one as well. I'm just saying you have to come in here and figure out your process of elimination, which I hope you're able to do in a very effective manner. Now, let me go ahead and zoom out. Once I've zoomed out, you can see that the 11 zone strategy, I can come over here and click this radio button, and you'll see what the difference looks like. And what I love is noticing the difference between your macro level takt plan and your norm. Has this not been what we're continually saying, that in takt, we gain time from our milestone? We don't push past. In CPM, you're always going to push past. You're always going to be in a panic. And you're going to be always in your trauma zone on that project. But in takt, you're able to gain time, and this is what you do as a part of your pull plan. So this is remarkable. So that is the actual assignment. When you go through and do your assignment, again, it's open up your calculator, enter in your new macro zone and wagon strategy, have a discussion as builders in your group, whether you're a professor or your company leader or you as an individual are doing this, have a discussion. Then click on that radio button and then be ready to report out with your group. So now I'm going to take you back to the book segments just a little bit. We've already covered page 45, and I want to make a point. Now you know what your zoning strategy will be when you do your pull plan. So this is like a picture looking forward, but you still have to adjust your work density. Now, remember I said you don't have to do your work density during the macro. You can wait until the norm. At this point, you definitely have to do it, right? So you can see in the work density analysis, and let me zoom in, that I just roughly broke it out by zones. But when I actually do the density analysis, they're not equal. Okay, so I need to adjust the boundaries again. Not a problem. When I zoom out here to page number 47, I can then take you in and say, once I adjusted the zone boundaries here, look at this. This is beautiful. 155, 52, 50. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And now I have my new zones. Now, these will be the zones that we use to actually build. And you'll see on a project like this, and by the way, you don't have to. If you're like 2,000 square foot zones are too small, they have to fit into the rooms anyway, so they're not too small, in my opinion. But if you're like, I want 3,000 square foot zones or 4,000 square foot zones, that's still better than batching the whole floor with massive zones, right? And basically now you have your zone plan, and now you are enabled to do your pull plan. The one thing I want you to remember down here at the bottom, which I think is quite fantastic, is you have a horizontal flow, right? This is where you're flowing across the building. And like we talked about before, you'll have vertical flows like your stairs and your elevators. And then you might have what's called workable backlog, which creates swing capacity if you ever get into trouble and you need a place to put the people working in the train of trades or to pull people out to help the train of trades. So it's pretty neat deal there. So let me show you what this will look like when you're done. This is one of the most beautiful pages in the book. I absolutely love it. This shows your vertical flow that's going to be broken out for your stairs, your elevator, right? And this team chose zone 11 as workable backlog. Now what I love down here is showing how this appears. So on this image, you're going 1, 2, 3. You're going horizontally across the floor, but for your elevators, you're going vertically. So if you have a horizontal phase, like it just looks normal like this, your vertical flows will be broken out and be separate. And the point here is, if you ever have an interruption in the train, you can, because you have workable backlog, either pull people from that workable backlog to help the train, or say, hey train, you can go work in zone 11, your workable backlog, to stay busy. Either way, it's quite phenomenal. So this is what you have at the end. You now know, because you use the calculator, how many zones you want from the macro. okay? You've had a builder discussion, okay? You now have broken out where these zones are and how they flow, and you've done a work density analysis, and you've identified them properly. Now I'm going to show you what happens next, but I want to first say that when you go do your norm-level takt plan, you can do this in the takt time-based takt planning method, where you force everything into the takt time, or you can do it in the resource-based takt planning method, where you honor a little bit more the rhythm that the trades want to individually keep. And you see examples of that. This is in the book. You see examples of that happening all over with our clients, and they still get the rhythm and they still get the benefits of takt. So I just wanted to make that point. Now, this is a little bit complex. Let me just go ahead and talk to you about this in case you were a little bit lost with how I explained it, not with how you understood it. But you remember when you did the first macro pass, it was just a guess. That's all it was, just a guess. And we kept a fixed 5-day takt time, and we adjusted our zone count, and we adjusted our work packaging. Okay. This time we were able to maintain the work packaging, but adjust the zone count and adjust the takt time and adjust the work packaging with the pull plan if we want. So my point is this fixed 5-day takt time doesn't hold when we're going from the macro to the norm. When we get to the norm, we can adjust any of these levers to make it be what we need to be. The reason I'm saying this is because I do want you to adjust your takt time. You are not going to use as a default a 5-day takt time with weekends as your takt time indicator in your norm level production plan. Why? Because of this. This is the wrong way. If you do a 5-day takt time using the weekends, you hit a delay, you're working Saturday. Oh, next week everybody's tired, you hit another delay, you're working the whole Saturday. Next time you have another delay, and now it eats into the Monday of the following week. All of the trade partners are like, oh, this is garbage, we're out of rhythm, takt doesn't work. And then you decide, well, let's just move everything to the following week. Now you've just wasted 4 days. Now, if you do that same scenario, and I'll even just use a 5-day takt time, but not use the weekends. You hit a interruption, don't work the weekend, and you just have a different takt time indicator that's not on a weekend. You hit another delay, there you go. You have the takt time indicator happening between Tuesday and Wednesday. You have another issue, hey, not a big deal. The takt time indicator is between Wednesday and Thursday. And then it keeps repeating. And in this scenario, you've only actually sustained the 3 impacts. Actually, let me do this with an arrow. You've only sustained the impacts of the delays, not in the impacts and delays plus trying to reset with buffers. I hate the concept, and I don't know where it came from, of using the weekends as the takt time indicator. You cannot do that. You will waste time, and people will lose faith in the system. On the board, you'll see this section that says pull planning. Much to your disappointment, probably, I'm not going to cover that right now. I'm going to cover that likely in the next video. But I will cover it in a future video, in addition to buffers and delays. I'm only putting this in the framework here so that you know we're going to come back to it. And so let me take you over here to the next step, which will show that we need a complete list of activities. And my point is, I'm going to come back to pull planning training. I don't want to confuse this lesson, but you do need this base list of activities. And you need to know their durations, which is what you got from the pull plan. And you can see that in the template, all you do is plug in 11 zones, and it shows you the duration by floor and the adjusted duration by zone. And the point here is, we only want to pull plan one zone. So I want you to create stickies for just one zone. And what you do when you work package this, and let me just go ahead and zoom in here a little bit, is you're going to take these activities for just one zone from your pull plan, and you're going to start to package them here inside of your wagons. And this happens to be on a 3-day takt time. And what we're going to do is we're going to do it in a way that it's not too conservative. You'll know it's too conservative if you have too many buffers in the sequence. Remember, we want 5 to 10% typically in the macro, 5 to 20% in the norm. Just right means you have just right a number of buffers. Too aggressive, you have no buffers. So we're going to package this in, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And then once you package it, what we need to do is actually say, hey, what does this represent and what is the title, just like you did in the macro, and that's what becomes your interiors legend, and you're able to jam out and do a good job. So let's go ahead and head right over here into our example exercise, where we are going to do the stacking comparison. So I'll go ahead and bold this for the board so you know what we're talking about, and we'll do the pull plan later. But what I want you to do right now is identify your sticky count and durations from your norm, enter in the durations for the 3 takt times of the pull plan, package it below, do a stacking comparison, analyze what you want to adjust according to the graphic, assign people on the team to represent the trade partners, and have a good time. So what I'm going to do here is basically show you how to do this step by step. So the pull planning packaging activity is going to start with a pull plan, but again, we'll show you how to do the pull plan later on, not right now. I have given you the pull plan from the group that did this before as a part of this example. So I'm giving this to you already, and you have basically all the data that you need. But when you zoom in here, you can see that the durations for these stickies are not added. And that's because I'm going to make this specific example tailored to what you chose for the amount of zones for your Norm-Level Takt Plan. So I'm just going to make this real easy and give you some instructions here. So I don't need you to do the whole thing. You can do the whole thing if you want. But what I want you to do is at least do a small section so you get familiar with it, okay? And that's going to be super fine. And if you get the gist of it, then you don't need to move on. But if you don't get the gist of it, then maybe you need to do a little bit more work in that direction, and that's super fine. It's up to you, your instructor, or whoever's leading this course for you. Okay, so what you're going to do, because the durations are not filled in here, is you're just going to come down here and say, which one did you choose, right? You chose the 11 zone strategy, so I've already made these stickies current for you over here. And what I'm going to do is just make sure that these stickies over here represent the durations that are here in my adjusted zone count. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, everybody, so I've gone ahead and taken the durations from here and made sure that they're in the pull plan. Now, if you're like, wait, how does that tie to a real pull plan? No, this is just for the example assignment. This is a real pull plan, but I don't know, or we didn't know in the pull plan example which zoning strategy you would use. You chose 11, so the durations would have to be according to this and plugged in. So you can see on all of these, I've gone ahead and plugged in the days for each of these for you. You'll do the same thing in your example. So for instance, if you were like, I chose 10, you would copy the 10 set of stickies, the 10 zone set of stickies over here, put it over here, and make sure that the durations here match here. And you can see I've done that throughout. In a real pull plan, you would already know what your zone strategy is, and you would just have the durations as you go. Hopefully that's not confusing. If you have any questions about that, please ask your instructor. They have been briefed on how to make sure that this happens properly. So what I want to do here, though, is set myself up pretty nicely. And I want you to be able to do this in the future, so I'm just doing it real time in front of you. If this is on a 3-day takt time, which it is, I want to go ahead and format my area down here to where it can show that it has a 3-day takt time. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy these in and do a nice job here. So no big deal. And again, I don't really need you to experiment with too many of these. I just want you to get a feeling for it, right? Okay, so remove reshores. That's a 1-day deal according to the pull plan. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this down here. That's the first item that happens. And I can, if I want to, and I'll probably just go ahead and do this in front of you like this so that we can make sure that we have the right sequence. Now, I don't need to use these stickies. I can use the same sticky, the original stickies that I have. The point is the sequence, okay? So then the next thing is final patch sealing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that and pull that down here. Final patch sealing, that probably happens on the 2nd day. Super fine. So I'll just copy this check mark over. All right, the next one is sweep floor. 1 day. Okay, so sweep floor, final patch, that probably happens the day after, so that's super fine, not a big deal. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these one by one. If you get my point, you can start on your example exercise now if you would like. One thing that I do want to do, whichever sticky that I use, I do want to make sure that I have the right sticky color here. So I'm going to change these as I go. hopefully that's not annoying to anybody. I just want to make sure that I have an understanding of what the crews are going to do. And stay with me here. This is going to get pretty interesting. Okay, I think that's pretty good for my first wagon on a three-day takt time. Let me go ahead and see if I can get the next one. So layout walls. This is a super good one. I can probably lay out walls that day before, but oh yeah, no, that's fine right there. And I will change the color of that sticky, so that's super fine. That works. And let's see if refresh control lines works though that same time. Actually, no, I need to do the refresh control lines first. So I'll move this one over. By the way, if you have any trouble with these moving around, typically if you have board permissions, which if you copied this, you should be able to, you can just lock those. So I'm going to move this over and say, yeah, I can probably refresh control lines that day before. Not a big deal. Okay. And then I'll move layout walls over here to the first day of the following takt time. So not a big deal. Okay. So these two are done over here and we're doing good. And I've got the durations over here. Super good. All right. So now we have priority walls and fire sprinkler. So those can, the pull plan is saying they can happen at the same time, but let's go ahead and experiment with this. Let's pull down the fire sprinkler here and I'll change the color. That's going to go to red and that's super fine. And I'm going to go ahead and make that for 2 days. So that's not a big deal. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my priority rooms. So because they don't overlap, I actually do agree they can happen at the same time. So I'm not really worried about this. We're super good. I'll go ahead and give myself a check mark here to the right as well. Okay. And you know what? Just for giggles, I'll just do a little bit more. Let's go ahead. Overhead mechanical equipment and duct. I'm going to pull these down here. And the overhead mechanical equipment is only 1 day. So I'll just plug that over here. And mechanical duct, that's actually a 3-day duration. So let's see how that works out right now. Let me just go ahead and change that to a pink for both of them and copy that over. So all good. And I'm going to copy this to where it hits on all 3 days. By the way, pull planning and the stacking comparison are best done day by day. You know what? I think actually that's good for me. I don't need to do too much more here. You all get the point. But the bottom line is, oh my gosh, this is so good. I think I'm actually doing a good job on this video. So when we plug this in here, it has to match the order and the sequence here. I cannot violate the pull plan sequence or the durations that the trades gave me. But what I want to do next is I want to come down here and make sure that they flow. So I'm just going to ask you to do this first. I'm going to ask you to copy these down and hit Control C and Control V and just copy these down. And again, what I want to remind everybody about is that it doesn't really matter to me only how it flows in this direction. I want to know how things flow in this direction. So we're about to do an analysis in that direction, and hopefully it makes perfect sense. Over here to the right, I've got a little guide that you can use. When you're attempting to make things flow in the diagonal, you can 1. Make sure the work is bought out properly. 2. Adjust labor counts in crews to level out work. 3. Adjust the sequence if needed to get flow. 4. Add workable backlog between the gaps if necessary. 5. Pair activities with other crews if needed. 6. If you can't, at least show it in the contract. So that's what we're going to do. I'll go ahead and use these check marks over here and make sure that we're caught up. Identify your sticky count. Beautiful. Enter in the durations into the pull plan. Beautiful. Package it below. We've just done that. And now we're going to do a stacking comparison. So this is what I want to show everybody. Okay. And these might seem like simple answers, but these are the real decisions that you're going to have to make. So if you look at this, you'll see, and I'll just go ahead and draw a little bit haphazardly here, not to annoy anybody, but I'll erase it when I'm done. This crew comes and goes away. And then it arrives to the project site and it's still here, but now we have a little bit of stacking, so that's not great. And then actually that crew is able to work here, so that's nice. And then it's here, and then it's here, and then it's here. And actually we can copy this down one more level if we want to make sure that we see the entire picture if you want. So let me just go ahead and do that right now. But the bottom line is it doesn't flow perfectly the way I want. All right. We have it in an unleveled a sequence potentially. But let's go ahead and look at it like this. Okay, so I want to look at it at its heaviest, which would be only 2 zones here. So remove reshores and lay out walls. Probably not the best. That's probably a lot of work. Then we install priority walls, and then we refresh control lines. Well, refresh control lines, that's not a whole lot of work, right? What we can probably do here is change the sequence, and I want to show you what I'm talking about. We can change the sequence to where the layout walls actually happens on day 2 and the priority walls actually happens on day 3. Okay, let me just go ahead and delete all these stickies, and I'll just go ahead and recopy this down and make sure that everything is like pairing up pretty nicely as we move along through the sequence here. And this is just a stacking comparison. This is just to analyze if we have the right amount of work. So day 1, remove reshores. That's a lot of work. Day 2, layout walls. That's a lot of work. Install priority walls and control lines. That's pretty good. So if I'm analyzing that crew over here and analyzing if they have good work, day 1, there's good work right there. Day 2, layout walls. That's good work. Day 3, refresh control lines and do a couple priority walls. That's really solid work down there. And then, remove reshores. That's good solid work for the day. Layout walls, good solid work for the day. And then install priority walls and the electrical rooms and refresh the control line. So what my point here is, and excuse my sketch, is you've got good flow, then they go to the next zone, they got good flow, we're jamming and ready to go. And this is what I want for everybody. So we have in our sequence, and I can actually just go ahead and bring back the little check mark over here. We can go ahead and say, hey, we've confirmed that this sequence actually works for this trade. They've got good flow in the diagonal. I really didn't have to adjust much other than the sequence. Okay, so now let's talk about final patch ceiling and the sweep floor. So this right here, final patch ceiling, this is the concrete crew. They are coming through here and they really don't have great flow from area to area. Basically what I'm saying is they're here, then they're gone, then they're gone, then they're here, then they're gone, then they're gone, then they're here. Okay, so not a big deal. Now, what if we said in this scenario that final patch ceiling, we can actually loop that individual into, and this is just a hypothetical, I'm just experimenting with some of these things, loop that individual into that crew, and instead of having labor counts that are variable, we actually ask that finisher to help with the reshores and with the refreshing of the control lines, and they basically pair in one crew. Well, now there's not a gap, and we can make sure that they have good solid work throughout. This is just a hypothetical. Let me go ahead and check mark that. Okay, so that works. All right, now sweep floor. Okay, so these are laborers with the general contractor that are already on site. We have good swing capacity, so that one should be fine too. So not a big deal. Okay, let's go ahead and run over here to the fire sprinkler. Okay, same story here, team. They're not here, they're here, they're here, they're not here, they're here, they're here, not here. So yeah, they're not going to be happy with us about that. So what was the crew count for them? Let's go back up here. When we look at fire sprinklers, there was a crew of 4. So could we have a discussion with the fire sprinkler contractor to say, hey, could we actually go from a 4-person crew to a 3, and maybe it could go to 2, but I've always been told that you need 2 people on lifts and 1 person down on the ground spotting, so let's just assume it's 3, and that they have good ways to hoist the pipe without straining the 1 person on the ground, and that now, instead of having a 2-day duration, we have a 3-day duration. And so now in each of these scenarios, they actually have, because they've crewed down from 4 to 3, a solid amount of work in every zone. And so now you can see they are in the zone, they flow to the next zone, they flow to the next zone. That's beautiful. And so what I can do is say, all right, now that I've had that conversation with that trade partner, now this one flows beautifully and nicely, and we're good to go. So this is fantastic. We're doing a great job. My point is, we're making adjustments in the sequence, again, not just so that it flows in this direction, we want it to flow in this direction. Now, the next one, overhead mechanical duct, it flows, then goes to the next area, then it flows, goes to the next area and flows. And this one individual activity can literally be picked up by the trade partner within their own wagon, and we're good to go. The bottom line is, do this example as far as you want into the future. Get a feel for how you would adjust your work packages so that they flow in the diagonal as well. Okay, so let's go over here to our assignment. Do a stacking comparison. Absolutely love that. Analyze what you would want to do to adjust the graphic. Assign people to the team. So if you have people in your team that are like pretending to be the trade partners, you can ask them, hey, fire sprinkler contractor, in your role play, like, hey, would you mind going down to, a 3-person crew? Have that conversation and experiment with this. And so this whole area is over here ready to go for you. I will undo this. You'll be frustrated with me. I'll just leave you with a blank template. So these numbers and everything will be taken out of here, and you'll be able to complete your assignment beautifully in a way that allows you and your group to learn. So this is your assignment. Now, this does lead us into InTakt, and so that's where I'm going to go to next. And what I want to explain is that I've got an arrow that's coming down here, and it's taking us into a section about buffers, and there's another assignment down here, and it's going to talk about risks and delays. But I want to cover that later and go into InTakt right now. As a part of going into InTakt, you will enter in once you actually identify your packaging, and actually let me go back here, and at the end of this, you, on each one of these wagons, are able to create a title like we showed you in the book, and like we did in the macro. Like this one would still be floor preparations, right? Now you will have the information for your norm-level production plan, and you can put it in InTakt. And so what you'll do here is you'll enter in your zones, your activities, and information into InTakt, add in any buffers later. So I'll just go ahead and do this in the description. This will be later, okay, not a big deal. Ask for help as you go and learn InTakt and ask your questions as you go. On InTakt.app and on the InTakt YouTube channel, you can find any instructions to take your level of learning to the next level for InTakt, or if you want specific instructions, all you have to do is reach out to Daniel Vasquez at elevateconstructionist.com, and you can reach out to him at any time for further instructions. But the bottom line is I want you to be in InTakt. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here and go into my InTakt. And actually, let me do a new one. I'm just going to type it in. You can get a 30-day free trial. For me, I just log in. Let me go ahead and add in a new project. This will be example, okay? And I'll just say project start. Hey, today is super fun. This is a really easy interface to use. It automatically defaults to the phase, and right now we're using the interior phase. So if you come in here and you say, I want to add an area, this would be floor 2, and you can just hit enter. And how many zones do you have? You have 11 zones. I'm just going to type in these really quickly to set up my environment. Okay. Okay. So I have my zones, and we're good to go. Once I have my zones, I need to enter in my activities. So let me actually go back over here to my first example. And I've got a 3-day takt time, and my first activity that I'll have is floor preparations. So when I add a task, I can do floor preparations. And then I'll go to my next one. My next one looks like it's going to be fire sprinkler and priority walls. So this would be fire sprinkler and priority walls. Okay, let's just do one more. This one would be mechanical, duct, and equipment. Okay, mechanical, duct, and equipment. I can go ahead and hit enter, and I'm good to go. Now, if you don't like the colors, you can change these, obviously, not a big deal. So let me do this first one as yellow. Let me do the second one as, maybe something a little bit more fun like a blue. Let me do this next one as a red. Okay, so don't like the red. That's feeling a little bit off to me. Let me do green. Okay, perfect. That looks great. My takt time over here is not 5 days, it's 3. And I have my start date, and all I have to do is hit save. and it will go ahead and start to plug this information in here. Now, this was just an example of how to start with the application, okay? If I actually plug this in, and you can see in this example, we have plugged in this entire project with the procurement and everything, and this is the structure out ahead, but this is what this example would look like in InTakt. And all I want you to do as a part of your example is just get your entire sequence built all the way to the end with the right number of zones. You can just do level 2. You don't have to do all the levels. This one does all the levels. But you can see here on level 2, we have zone A down here through K, so that's the 11 zones. And we want to see this in InTakt in a meaningful way. Now, as you start to play with this, and you're like, I want to dig farther into the application, that's super fine. Again, let me go ahead and just show you a couple of your resources. You can type in intakt.app. You can come in here, do get started, features. There's also a YouTube channel. And on the YouTube channel on InTakt, there are videos here, instructional videos on how to do anything within the software. And I do want to say, you can contact Danny Vasquez at any time if you have any other questions. We also have really nice 2-hour trainings for InTakt that show you how to do basically anything that you want to do in there. But the program is actually so easy, you could pretty much fiddle around with it and become an expert in no time. So that is your example to enter this information into InTakt. So at the end of this example, all I really want is that you had the builder discussion. We're going to skip the pull plan for right now. You did your own stacking comparison, and then you put the information into InTakt in a basic way. So we will have this Miro board ready for you. We will have the syllabus ready for you. This video completely edited and be ready to answer any questions as we go. But this is how you create, from an initial standpoint, your Norm-Level Takt Plan, and we will come back to the pull plan and the delay options soon in another video. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.